So today I welcome on one of my best friends. We've known each other for probably 22, 3 years.
Not bad.
Which is hard to believe. But my buddy Dave Regula, we traded together in Chicago for a number of years, and now he is the owner with his wife Lauren of Track Athletics. And we tried to do this over the summer. We had some things that it didn't fall into place for us. And so today we're finally making it happen, not without a few hiccups. But without further ado, I want to introduce Dave, and I want Dave to just give us a little bit of his history, what it was like to grow up as Dave Regula back in Ohio.
First, thank you for having me. The official thank you. All right, dig right into it. Growing up, I grew up in the most, in quotes, normal family in Ohio. A couple brothers playing sports, the whole thing, trying to be that good older brother. I was the oldest of three. Ended up playing all the sports and was lucky enough to go play football in college at Dartmouth College. It's actually maybe considered a Division I athletic school.
Dave was a kicker, but was featured on Sports Center. So just give us a little quick.
Perfect. I did score at the time the first touchdown on your own kickoff. A lot of people probably don't know that. Most people alive don't know that.
That's why we hired him.
Yeah, it got me a job. That's why I'm here actually right now. So from there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like at Dartmouth, these East Coast, the Ivy League thing, everybody I knew went to New York to do the financial industry thing. Investment banking was huge at the time, back in '98. And I did my own thing. I wanted to swim against the current. So I went to Chicago. Super lucky to find an amazing company at WH Trading, and dove in head first into trading. To be honest, and I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know what it was when I got there, and I got lucky and landed in a good group of people.
It's such a common, amongst our group at least, right? It's the way we all ended up there. No one knew what the fuck trading was. Everybody they knew was going to New York. I was trying to go to New York. I didn't know why. I thought it was because I was going to make money there and work a shit ton of hours, and that's what you're supposed to do. I went 0 for 10 on interviews. Shout out.
It's worse than me. I went 0 for 4.
See? At least I got the at-bats. But same thing. I end up in Chicago and not knowing what trading's about, but knowing that you're just part of a team. Like that was like the thing that people kept saying, well, you're part of this team and you trade together. And it's like, okay, well, growing up playing sports and like yourself.
Yes. And it was literally an extension of, it was basically a way to carry on your athletic career around the same type of people, same environment, the trading pit, hyper competitive, all guys. It's a locker room.
Very much a locker room. Yeah. The office before and after the close, a locker room.
Yes. Exact environment. It made it easy and super enjoyable. It felt right at the time for sure.
Yeah, and we were fortunate, right? We had, Will Hobart, who started the company, set the example of like, hey, we can fuck around and have fun. And granted, he wasn't playing grab ass as much as we were, but he was cool with it. But like when it was time to work, it was time to work. And when we went down on the floor, like we focused on that, and it was a nice balance. And you can see the teams, that you watch, right? The teams you watch in the, whether it's pro sports or college, like the coaches that have a sense of letting the kids be kids, but there's a line to draw, like when it's time to go to work. And I think Will did an amazing job of walking that line for us.
Yeah, for sure. I think the leadership looking back, we were lucky. Like we talk about all the time now, some of the other guys, if we would have gone to work, randomly gotten that interview with a different company. Looking at some of the guys that I started with and stood next to clerking and things like that didn't pan out, got into real trouble that people talk about, the trading trouble, the drugs. I mean, TJ and I talked about last week, there's pictures from the pit where there are four people in the pictures with us that are dead. Go down the list from alcohol, drugs, suicide by police,
Right. Oh yeah.
dark, like we super, I mean, and you call it luck, call it, vibing with the right people, whatever you want to do.
Right.
We ended up in the best situation, I think, in that scenario.
Yeah, we did. We were fortunate. It's always fun to reminisce about that. But there came a point for you that it just wasn't your thing anymore. And so you were there 16 years. And so tell me this, like it goes from one day, this is the best job ever, I love it. And it didn't happen overnight, but like, so what was it like for you? When was the writing on the wall for you where you had to make a change, and what did that look like?
I think you're right. It didn't happen overnight. And at one time it was the perfect place for me, which made it harder to leave eventually. But I think over time, I think kids had a big part to play for me. I don't know that I ever looked at it as the longest term career. I always knew that I kind of wanted to get into something else, but I think once it got to a point where I just felt stuck as a human being. Like the financial piece was there. That's made it hard to leave, right? We could have coasted out. You could have done the same. Mm-hmm. And I could still be there, right? It made for a good lifestyle, but it didn't make for fulfillment or happiness. And as that point hit and it got a little bit slower around the floor, everyone got a lot slower around the floor.
Okay, let's be honest here. It was fucking dead. And what was happening? We were on our iPhones all day. And it was like, is this how I'm supposed to spend my life?
Yes. And the whole thing became, well, it's going to get busy again. It's going to get busy again. And in the meantime, I started to actually put my energy into learning about other things. And that was kind of the first step of, wow, I'm not really as advanced in some of the things I'd like to be in my personal life.
Which were?
Personal fulfillment, education, my relationships, everything, really, right?
But also fitness, nutrition, like...
Oh, for sure.
You couldn't consume enough of that information. I remember because we were going down the same path, right? And at some point, you're like, I'm, dreading kind of going into work because all I want to do is learn more about working out or whatever. And it sounds silly, but it's like what captured, I think our attention.
That was the first step for sure. And then you realize kind of the growth that can come out of that fitness piece. But it got bad on the floor for a while, right? Like I started to think every day, like, is this it? Is this it? Like, does it get no better than this? And I think a lot of people feel that wherever they are at work. But for me, and we were with our best friends, then that's when the complaining sets in. That's when the realization, this isn't where I need to be, but I can make a living out of it. Like, and that wasn't me. That just wasn't ever I didn't want to be the guy that says, oh, I'm leaving, complain, and then not do shit about it.
Yep.
And so that's when everything kind of set in motion, like because we always wanted to do the fitness thing, right? Lauren and I had that piece at Windy City. It was the first CrossFit in
Windy
Chicago,
City
right?
CrossFit, yeah.
And so we kind of grew up with it. We were super lucky again to find Justin there, but that was it. Like if we had a chance to do something like that, it became, if I don't, it was what people always talk about, the pain of staying outgrew the pain or the problem of leaving, right?
Yeah.
The fear. And so all of a sudden it was like, if I don't leave, if I don't start something within fitness and get into coaching and life coaching or whatever it's going to be, that consumed me. Like I told Lauren, like I literally, and this is the darkness of the floor. Mm-hmm. You walk out of work, that rat race of people everywhere and cabs and buses. I said out loud in my big boy out loud voice, if I get hit by a bus on the way home and I didn't get and this is it, right? I didn't get to do what I truly wanted to do. I didn't get to do the gym and the coaching. Like, my next thought is, God, I hope a cab comes and finishes me off. Like, I don't want to have to live those moments of just thinking like, and I used to have the moment like, my kids are only going to know me as a trader. And that bummed me out. No offense to anybody that's doing, some of my best friends still there.
Yeah.
But for me personally, that wasn't it. I couldn't live with that.
Well, it's because, had it been 5 years earlier and that's all your kids would have known you would have had a different experience, right? But at that point, how you felt, how you were living those days, it was like, it's fucking miserable, but and also, those, what I'm interested in is, what did it feel like for you to walk through the door? Like, how did you have to get yourself psyched up to talk to your wife, Lauren, about this change? Because you're making good money,
That's a good question.
Or did she just see what you were kind of becoming the shell? I mean,
I think she probably picked up on it. That was definitely my second biggest up to that point sales job, right? I sold her to marry me, and then I had to resell the career change. Like, think of it from her point of view, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I married this guy.
Salesman.
We've got this great setup in Chicago. Everything seems happy. And then I'm like, nope, we're going to Ohio. We're going to rebuild everything from scratch. Like, long discussions for sure. Super stressful. But at that point, thank God that she's who she is and she was along for the ride.
And how about this? How much does that conversation change if you are moving to a place like San Diego, right? Because like Chicago to Ohio, Chicago to San Diego, those are two different options, right? Do you think it's a much different conversation, or is it still like, fuck, you're uprooting me and the family, and we don't know what the future looks like financially?
It's definitely fuck off. Anywhere outside of moving closer to Trail BC, I think would have been,
which is where Lauren grew up, and that's where her family's at.
So outside of that, and she and we are both big family people. So outside of that, it was tough. Honestly, that period of time was dark. Like, there's everyone has their dark periods. Mm-hmm. That was maybe rock bottom for me.
And just briefly, if you can share with the listeners, because I know the story well, I've heard it a number of times, and I still get a kick out of it because you've risen from the ashes, my brother. But explain to the listeners what it was like when you were moving, or I should say, when Lauren was moving the family to Ohio. What were those days like for you? And I'm joking around, but it was obviously a dark time. And so just kind of,
I've had a few. So when I look back, honestly, I've had a few really dark things in my life. Like, I'm pretty low key, easygoing, laugh, dick around a lot, right?
Fact.
So I think people think that everything's always great, which is a problem that people have in general. No one knows the person you're talking to.
How you doing? Everything's
everybody
great. It's like,
has.
It's not, brother. I know it's not. Yeah.
Everyone has shit going on, right? So I've gone through. I had a best friend commit suicide and got divorced within 3 months' time in my 20s.
Your friend committed suicide and you got a divorce.
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yes, right in the same time period. That was that was crazy. And then the moving piece was like almost on par with that for me. It was like a huge death in my life. Like, I went to Chicago. I mentioned I didn't know anybody when I got to Chicago. I knew nothing. I knew who Will was. I interviewed with him. I didn't know anyone. I landed in this giant place from a town of 5,000 people in New Hampshire to Chicago and made my own way. I met my wife. I had my kids, all of you guys. I mean, we came through the fire together. When the stress of trading, we lived and died together. Yeah. And when I say that, like, people don't understand, like, together meaning I stood with my chest to your back every day, like touching in the pit, right? And so those moments, like, I did Thanksgiving at Will's house, my boss's house, with everyone. The wives were best friends. Like, they were in the room. Like your wife caught my son when he was born. Like I was on.
Peyton was well, I guess she still is a birth doula. That's where she is today. But my wife Peyton was there exactly.
Yeah,
for
and
the birth.
just so everyone, I was just on the wrong side of the table at the time, being supportive. I didn't want to catch my son.
That's right.
Full disclosure, cover my tracks. But yeah, like when you come up with people like that, like that's all I tell people still, like I grew up in Ohio, but I really grew up as a person in Chicago. So
we weren't colleagues. It was family.
No,
it was a big tribe that
Yes.
Will was, he doesn't like to take on the mantle of chief, but he was our chief. And
For sure.
to your point, I should say Peyton and I spent 18 Thanksgivings there in a row. Like that's family. And there was, 20 to 50 people there every year. And it was amazing. So
yeah. So that those bonds, when we made them, like I took the decision to go and leave. Like you had left. That was really it.
I left, how much, a little before you?
Year?
But
like no one had left that tribe of guys
No.
or the company really. So we went out on our own. And for me to leave the relationships that I had, that's what, like, I went into, like, from the people at Windy City to people at WH, my kids were like 4, 3, and 1 at the time, just starting to make friends and get comfortable. Like for me to leave that, I went into looking back, I didn't realize it at the time, dark, terrible, low place. Like the actual time, it ends up being funny looking back.
Yeah, your nickname was Puddles, right?
Yeah, I was like reduced to tears for weeks. Like in public, like I would see someone thinking that I'm going to see them for the last time, like a friend, the gym. I would just start crying at the gym.
Yeah.
Like it's not funny, but it is funny because of course I see everyone again, right? It's not the last time I'm going to see somebody, but the real problem for Lauren is that I was completely useless during the moving period, and something got screwed up in the move. We ended up staying with friends with our family. So we had 2 families of 5 in a house for like 5 days. Everything we did was with Greg and Shannon, 2 of our other best friends, and their kids. And stuff still needed to be done and packed for the move. Lauren would send me out. Hey, can you go grab something from the house? The movers are almost done. I would walk out the door and come back 2 hours later and forget what she told me. I just like went to like the old place where I got coffee and talked to somebody and sat and like commiserated with my people. And I would come home and she didn't get a chance to actually like mourn the move. It was just me. Right. It was totally unfair. And then we got home to Ohio, unpacked. And then we didn't have a business. Like everything was in flux. The place that we were going to open fell through. We didn't know where to go. We had nothing. I didn't have a job for the first time ever. I just walked around in a bathrobe for two or 3 weeks. I don't think I got dressed. I lost 25 pounds probably. I didn't eat. I was ill.
Which for people who aren't watching on the stream here and are just listening in, like 25 pounds was like going from what, 215 to 190 or something like that. It's 25 pounds of muscle.
It was a bad time. I remember not being, it's a good thing. Thanks for bringing this up. It was terrible. It was terrible.
But again, like it's part of like what I find interesting, right? And I knew this was going on as it was going on. We were already down in I think we had to have been. Yeah, we were in Austin at the time. And I'm like, I don't understand why Dave's having such a hard time. Like for me, right? Because we were both going into the fitness business and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I didn't realize it until this summer when I sat down with Carrie Dahl and did her podcast. And, she's an amazing interviewer. And she asked a few questions and it was like, I realized that I just bypassed mourning that, like, when I was leaving. And I really struggled over the next number of years trying trying to duplicate that, trying to find it again. And I couldn't, and I didn't know that's what I was looking for.
Right.
But I never resolved that. And I think because of that, I really struggled in ways that might not have been obvious to people that knew me. It was obvious inside the house. Like I wasn't who I wanted to be. Our relationship was struggling. And it was like, all like, not being, one thing I never resolved was I gained a lot of self-worth, right, from earning a paycheck. And when you start making money off investments that really you're not doing dick about, you're sure you're making decisions about where to put it, like it's not the same. And so that was eating at me, like subconsciously, I didn't know it, but like I no longer felt like a man in that sense because I wasn't earning a paycheck. And it sounds a little bit silly, maybe, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe that resonates with people. But for me, I didn't realize that until this summer. This is 6 years after I left trading. And because of that, because now I know, like, I'm able to understand that I can let go of that. I don't have to do that to be a man to my wife or my kids or myself. Like, that's something I did. I fulfill a new role today in multiple different roles, right? But I was really tied to that. Again, my self-worth, which it's a lesson. Like, be careful where you find your power and your self-worth. Like, those things will eat you up. Those are your religions.
I think that story though, that's like the breadwinner story, right? Everyone knows from growing up. Every guy knows. That's what you're told, right?
Yes.
Growing up in Ohio, that's all I knew. Like, I bought into that 1,000%. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things when you marry somebody like Lauren, I was always the best athlete. And then I'm suddenly the worst athlete in the family.
Right. Just so everyone knows, Lauren is a soon-to-be 3-time Olympic softball pitcher for Team Canada. Yeah, so that's a tough one to overstep. Yeah,
for sure. But then you, not just that, but you step into like the fitness business, right, and the coaching business, and I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like the behind the scenes guy for the most part at the beginning, for sure. It's like I played with the same thing. Like, where's my place? Because that's not what I was used to. It was so foreign. It was a good lesson for sure.
Yeah, it's that ego, right? Which I think what you and I have really come together on more recently too, in the last couple of years on our personal journeys is just how big a part that ego played in our life. In the ego, it can be great. It gets you off your ass. It gets you to work really hard and make as much money as you can as a trader, and to show up at the gym and really go hard. But like, when there's not the balance with it and the understanding of keeping the ego in its place, it can run your programming. It can run you into the ground, and it can have you go off on these different paths that aren't aligned with what your true self is, right? Like your deep soul, whatever you want to call it, however you identify it, right? Like that intuitive knowing of who you are. The ego kind of fucks with that, right? And I think that's a good example of how that can happen.
Think that's, for me personally, that's one of the biggest, that puzzle on how to use. It's one, so I feel like I went through the same journey, right? And especially sports and then into trading. Like, your ego is your survival mechanism, right? It's your success. But once you realize, or I realized, that that's not who I was. It's not who I wanted to be. I wasn't on a daily basis. It was blocking me from connecting on a level with myself and with my family, with Lauren and you guys. Mm-hmm. Like, it ended up impeding my growth. So then I suppressed it. And then it becomes, we've talked about this before, it's like the conundrum of consciousness. Like, once you realize where the ego is, then you have to use it as a tool and learn how to balance it. Like, I'm working on now being okay with it, especially in business. It can be useful at times. You can't live on it, but you can use it for sure, which I think it's fascinating to dig into that. But I think the first step is realizing what it is and where it comes out, and that you don't need it all the time. it's kind of
No.
useless, to be honest.
No, yeah, you just got to keep it. Yeah, it's like keep it in balance. Again, I think it can be a thing that gets you moving. I mean, I've been on both sides. That I've been where I felt like I've had very little ego, but then sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing anything fulfilling. I feel like I'm, there's a difference between, doing and being, right? But then if you unpack the being, like just because you're not doing anything doesn't mean that you're being, that you're in the present moment. You could be just being a lazy ass and like completely checked out,
No,
right?
totally.
And so,
Yeah.
and again, all this stuff, it's been my experience. Like you just gotta give yourself a break on all of it, no matter where you're at, because that's just where you're at. And as kind of simple as that sounds, I think a lot of times we want to hold ourselves to a higher standard when we start to understand, at least when I started to learn about presence, like I wanted to be in the present moment at all times. And it's like, when you're not, oh, well, I'm fucking this up. It's like, no, this has nothing to do with it. Like,
Totally.
just chill, bro, But anyway, what I found interesting, again, we both had this idea that we were getting in the fitness business. That's what made the transition super easy for me. I had my chapter 2 written, right?
I was the exact same. That's what everyone says, even when I go back, the guys, because there are a lot of guys that want to, like, trading's wonderful. It's changed. If you were there 20 years ago, you got in, it's different now. And I talk to so many people. I want to leave. I just don't know what I want to do.
Yep.
And for us, like, that's the one thing. They're always, man, you knew what you wanted to do. Like, we're lucky.
Makes it easy.
It made it simple, right?
And I equate this to, the career of a trader is not unlike that of a professional athlete in the lifespan. Sometimes in the last 5 years, sometimes in the last 10, 15, 20, but at a certain point, it's gone. And what do? A lot of times we don't feel like we have marketable skills, right? Because we just look through that trading lens. What did I learn, pick up as a trader? It's much bigger than that, right? You got into fitness. I've gotten into fitness, and we've grown from there to get into other things. Same things with professional athletes. A lot of these guys, they've made a bunch of money. They don't know what to do. They don't think they have to do anything, but they soon realize that there needs to be fulfillment in their life, right? And that's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, I just love that we had our ideas about how we wanted to get into fitness, right? And for me, like, I was coaching clients remotely, and I was doing writing the programming and stuff like that. And then eventually I got into the fitness league. From there, it's been like this. These are all these stepping stones to get me to where I am today, where I feel like I'm wanting to share this message of people that I'm meeting, right? People that I've known for 20 some odd years, to people that I'm just meeting that I think are super interesting, that have something to offer, right? It's where it's taken me. Your journey is not dissimilar to mine. Yours started out, purely as brick and mortar, sets and reps and some life coaching, right? And where I've seen you come, right, from where I sit, is you've taken that, like, it's almost like this tranche of total well-being. And it's like, arguably it's 10 to 20%. And you filled in the balance of personal development, how to truly reach people to create change in their entire life that has the trickle-down effect on their fitness, on their nutrition, on their lifestyle, on their kids, on their coworkers, whoever they come into contact with, right? And so it's been awesome to just, the conversations that we have. I mean, we were knuckleheads 6 years ago, drinking the Kool-Aid, fitness this, fitness that. And I'm downplaying a little. We had an idea about how it all played out, but it's just one little part of what you're doing now. It's a big part. People still need it, but like, you have so much more that you and Lauren are offering people. And I just love that's where you're at. And I think it's important for you to kind of to share like what that journey's been like for you. How did you go from 6 years ago where you were, right, opening the gym and it following through and all this, to today, like, what podcast you're listening to, what gets you excited, what do you want to learn more about? Like, how does that progression work for you?
For sure. I think just like you, the fitness piece in the beginning is huge. And Laura and I still obviously, and I know you do too, believe that it's important. I think we saw where we are. Health is a massive issue. Like we see so many people that their health prevents them from, like, the first domino needs to fall. We talked about this earlier. If you're concerned about how you feel when you wake up, if you feel poorly, you have no energy, you have terrible habits, you're not eating, like that can prevent a lot of personal growth in that's always on your mind. It takes up too much brain space. So if we can hammer that out and get some momentum, some routines around your health, that opens up a lot of other doors down the road, right? And so I think when we first got track going, we met a ton of amazing people, and we got that fitness piece solved for people. We started to see, like, okay, that's easy. Like with the right plan, the right coaching, the right support, like you can get healthy, you can do it fairly quickly if you want. But making it stick is huge, right? That's where everyone struggles. The numbers are like astounding. The people that lose weight every year and then put it back on, it's like, 5% of people stick to their plan, which is horrible. Like it's great. The information, right? There's more information out there now than ever. There's more shirtless Instagram fitness models selling programs. It's everywhere. Like it makes me want to throw my phone away because I get inundated with all of it. And I continually see real grown-up people, parents, professionals struggling. It's terrible. We need to fix that, the lifestyle mindset, life coaching piece, right? So that's we basically grew into seeing, okay, we fixed the health for people, but they're still having trouble. It's not sticking. Maybe they're not getting out into life enough. Like for us, one of the big things at Track was having these we call them epic life experiences, taking people, and we need to get you on the boat.
Yep.
We need to solve for you the swimming piece first. And then but getting people out of the gym and owning life experience, that's the goal. And now that's where Laura and I are pushing huge into with her and the Strong Mom thing. But getting people invigorated in life, living life, and then passing that down to their kids, right? It's not passing down burpees and back squatting. It's living a life that you're proud of. To us. And fitness is the first domino, fitness, nutrition, get your habits, and then expand from there.
What I like about that, or love about that, is it's like a friend of mine, Ryan Frisinger, talks about. That's the scaffolding you need to really build the healthy, well balanced, person. You need to have the nutrition, the sleep. I mean, again, these things are all intertwined, and so it's not like you can really separate them out. But the fitness, all these things contribute to you being able to focus more on what the next level is. But it's like, it's a little bit of a Maslow's hierarchy piece where it's like, you need to take care of these things at the very foundational level. Yeah. And then you can start worrying about these exotic supplements you want to take, because your body right now is not going to be, it's not going to be bioavailable for your body because it's a train wreck. You're drinking, 8 sodas a day, you're smoking cigarettes, you're doing all these things, but you want to take the newest, latest, and greatest supplement. I was like, come on, brother.
It's a magic pill. Everybody still wants it. I think honestly, a big piece of the problem is that the support isn't there for people, right? I think we find a lot of people, everyone on their own, a lot of people know that they aren't living a life that they're proud of. And some more than others, right? You can, like we talked about this, nothing's binary, right? You're not proud or not proud of your life, but there are areas in your life that can get better. It was me in Chicago. I was proud of my life on some level. Professionally, my kids were happy. I got along with Lauren well, but there was something missing. I wasn't growing. There was no personal development. I wasn't, as a person, getting better, exploring new things, that kind of thing. I think there's a lot of people like that. We talked about people before you have kids or right around that time. It's like people hit the 15-year snooze button and go into the story of, I'm just going to survive my kids. I'm going to give up my own identity and everything that goes with it. And I'm going to be super dad or super mom. And I'm going to put the martyr. I'm going to put the cape on, and everything gets sacrificed. It's like they give up growth for 15 years with the excuse of the kids. And don't get me wrong, like, you need to pour things into your kids for sure.
Yeah.
But if you cut that period of time out, you're going to wake up disconnected from your wife, disconnected from your own health. And we see it all the time, unhappy, which is, it's crazy. So you need it. There's a lot to unpack there, but shaking the cobwebs off. If you're 2 years into the snooze or 10 years, it's not too late. You need to find the right people to support you, right? You need to have the awareness to say it's not as good as it could be, and then surround yourself with the right people. And that's what we try and create at Track. If you can get a group of the right people, life becomes easy. It was our tribe in Chicago, right? We survived because we had each other.
Yeah.
And I think it's no different now. It's just stepping away from the bad environment and getting around the right people sometimes.
And that's it right there. It's and we were talking about this a little bit before we came on today. And we were talking with your wife, Lauren, about this as well. But like, so much of this, right, is around the language we use, or that is used to, that gives us the excuse to give up all this stuff because we're supposed to do this and we should do that. And it's really becomes a factor of who is your tribe? Are those really the people that you want to surround yourself with, who are giving you more and more excuses to go down this hole where you're giving up all your kind of autonomy and who you are? And what Lauren was bringing up, she's like, your kids see that. Like, what's the example, right, that you want to set for your kids? She said it was beautifully. She's like, if you're a woman, right, 45 years old, and this is where you're at in your life, look at your 15-year-old daughter. Is this the life that you want for her when she's 45? And if you can say yes, then you're doing awesome. But if you look in the mirror and you say, hell no, I don't want her to be in this position. I'm doing it because this is what I like. No, those things have to be aligned. And so I'd never thought about it that way. And I thought about it for me and my kids and my boys, and specifically, it's like, am I living up to the example I want to be for them? Rather than, putting a sugar coating on it. Like, what are the things that I'm doing that they see? Because they see it all. We know that.
It's nuts.
They read your energy, all that stuff. Like, how am I showing up for them? Right. And so I feel a lot better about that today than I did 2-3 years ago. But I think it's a great reminder. I think it's a great lesson for all of us, right? Like, look in the mirror. What kind of, if you have children, right? Is this the life I want for my kid when they're fill in the blank of your age? And if it's yes, then fucking I tip my cat to you, because I think it's rare. I think it's totally doable, but I think it's a great way to shift that kind of perspective.
Yeah, I think in summary, like for me, it's a daily, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's almost,
we'll edit that one out.
A little Howard Stern there. It's like it's a daily check-in, right? Like, where am I at today? Because it's back to the binary thing. Like, you're not necessarily not living the life that you want your kids to live, but maybe not to the extent, right? You might make a choice here and there that when you think about it, because honestly, you need to get out of your own way.
Yes.
Right? Like,
don't overthink it, feel it. Like how,
Totally. So when you ask that question, that's a great way to reframe it. And honestly, when Lauren thought of it like that, it was perfect. It was such an eye-opening, like, oh, wow.
Yeah, you like feel it, right? You're like, oh, wow, that had an impact.
Yeah, and then part of me was bummed I didn't come up with it. So that was like a whole nother thing.
I know. Well, maybe we can edit it out and I'll just make it like you came up with that.
It was both our lines. Perfect.
So let's stay on that topic.
Yeah.
On Lauren, because as I mentioned earlier, she's about to go to her third Olympics. She's 38 years old right now. She'll be 39 when the Olympics roll around. Mother of 3. I could go on and on, right? But knowing you how I know you and how close we are, I know that the third time around is a different decision than the first time and the second time. And it's fair, right? Like
For sure.
our lives
Yeah.
are different at each stage. And so maybe briefly talk about, I mean, maybe it wasn't even a decision the first two times. It wasn't like it was like, I'm playing Olympics. Yeah, fuck yeah. What was it like? Kind of walk us through, because I know the arc of the experience
Yeah.
as best as I can.
So
but
the first time when I met Lauren, she was playing professionally for the Chicago Bandits back in the day. So that's how we met in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
That was her life. That was her career. That was in 05, 06, right around that time. And so 08, she was on the national team. She'd already played in an Olympics. 08 was a foregone conclusion. She's going to play in Beijing. I get to go to Beijing. That was part of the whole thing. Yeah, super fan. We didn't meet at a game, by the way. Like, I wasn't asking for her autograph after the game. We met socially, in quotes. And so then it was easy. But as soon as 08 was over, glove went in the closet. We started having kids 11 months later or something like that. So then it became family. Then the focus was totally on my career and the family. We moved home. She got a chance to play again, randomly got the call in 2016 to go play in Worlds. It all sounds fake, right? The mom, she's just minding her own business.
And there was no, correct me if I'm wrong, there was no Olympics for softball that year?
No Olympics for softball that year. So that was a Worlds that year. And they were looking to add a pitcher to the roster. So we're minding our own business. Lauren gets a call. Oh, sure, I'll play. It's in 10 weeks. All right. So, and this is what, it's weird that she's talented enough that she can pick up the glove. She stays in shape. That's the other thing. When you maintain your health, you're open to an incredible amount of experience. You don't have to go get in shape for 6 months. She couldn't have done it if she wasn't on top of her game. And so she went and played then. That was like, okay, this is a 10-week thing. This will be easy. We can sort this out. You're gone all the time. I'll hold down the fort. We have a great team at track. We'll do it.
You also have some family in town.
Yeah,
so
we have family in town.
And you've got some great help.
Great
so that's
support
awesome.
system. Savannah's amazing. Our help at home. And so that was easy. I didn't have trouble with that decision. They won bronze. Lauren got to pitch. Great story. Everyone cried. High five, come home. That's it for softball until they add it back in the Olympics for 2020. And then the seeds planted, right? And business is starting to get a little...
Has she been playing at all since 16?
No.
Okay.
When the glove goes...
that's just more for the listener. I knew that. This is a loaded question, but I just wanted to make sure.
When the glove goes away, the glove goes away. Like, we might play catch with the kids or whatever. And so I think it was dead and buried. She recently got asked to do the commentating for the Olympic qualifier in Vancouver. So that was actually awesome. I'm like, this is cool. If you do really well, and hopefully you do, maybe you can commentate at the Olympics and I can get to go again. Like, that's kind of where I was at. So she commentates, does really well. Everyone's very complimentary. But the coach meets with her, tells her after they qualify for the Olympics, I think you have a part to play. Okay. So I don't know this. I'm just happy to get her home. I had the kids by myself for a week. No big deal. Back to putting the cape on. Right. She comes home and then hits me with, I got asked back to the team. I'm going to consider the option, which I basically lost my mind. It was super, super hard to hear, to be honest. We talked about this. Yes,
that's why we're bringing it up. I want people to understand what goes through your mind, because I know we talked about this as well, but it's like, I couldn't have done it without the help of my husband and all that. And that is important. And that when someone says that, they mean it, but like, unpack that a little bit, because you're kind of an afterthought, much like in pro sports, the wife's an afterthought.
Totally.
You know what? She gets the courtesy, whatever, but in a lot of ways, people are like, she gets whatever she get, and so
like it's a no-brainer decision.
Yeah. So unpack that a little bit. What Dave was feeling like.
I felt like shit, to be honest. Lauren and I have talked about this, looking back on it, I'm really proud of kind of the process we went through.
Me too.
To get there. But I was hurting because Lauren and I have spent so much time on our relationship in the last 12 months. There've been a lot of factors, some health issues. Lauren, she'll talk about that at some point, and just different things. It's been a really, really hard, some transitions in business, moving online space, and just hard things. And we've put everything into our relationship, and we have that bond. All I sensed was, all right, you're punting everything we've done. Like, we're going to fall off the trajectory as a couple. That scared the shit out of me.
So fear, that
Total
big,
fear.
big fear. Yeah.
Fear hurt. I was hurt. It was like, you're choosing. The way that decision comes down is I'm choosing to be away. And just so people kind of get a feeling, and people that have kids will understand, and dads, because you're not used to kind of the situation. But when she's gone, she's starting, in January, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So she's gone for 2 weeks a month for 3 or 4 months, and then really kind of gone straight for 2 straight months, maybe 3 months. So it's a time away. And then I'm left to kind of manage the business, do the family, make sure all the pieces fit. We have 3 kids on 5 different teams or something stupid. And so I was scared to death of being able to manage it all. And to be honest, the backdrop is that if I put up too big of a stink, like, where's the balance of me being selfish to me being realistic, and her being selfish versus being realistic? And then, of course, everyone considers the decision a no-brainer. Like, I'm a fucking asshole if she doesn't play right. Like, that's how I perceived it. That's not necessarily
for sure
the reality.
Yep.
But who do I talk to about this? I don't know any other husbands who are dealing with this decision.
Yeah.
And so we had it out. Not in a bad way. We weren't angry at each other necessarily.
Well, Lauren.
She thinks I was angry.
No. But I love her kind of angle on it, and how to kind of dampen the whole situation by really downplaying it, right? And it was like, it just happened to be the opposite of what you wanted to hear right then. You wanted her to say, I know it's going to be a shit show, it's going to be tough and da-da-da, but what did she say?
Won't be that bad. Makes sense, right? Won't be that bad. Yeah.
And so that didn't help, right? Then it's like, you don't even fucking understand me.
Didn't help?
Yeah.
No, that put me into like, are you nuts? Like, you don't understand. And then it just created this, her trying to still go down that route of telling me it wasn't that easy. And I was overplaying how bad it was.
Yep.
It got to the point where she made the case that this is a really special thing, right? Not many people play in 1 Olympics. This is a chance to play in 3 Olympics. It's really special. To which,
again, she's going to be 39.
Right.
Like, that's...
And you know what my response was? Are you sure? This is your 3rd one. Like, how special is it really?
Yeah.
Right? Like, come on. Like, I tried to play that card.
Yeah, Scared Dave came out.
That's a little bit of the traitor in me, right? Like, pull out all the stops. Like, you can't talk me into this one.
Yes.
Thank God we moved past that. Like, literally, she had the email queued up. I'm not doing this. And I just, in my gut, I knew. Like, literally, we went down the whole road. She decided she wasn't
Give me time frame on when, like, the hard, really hard.
That was the other thing. She came home, and we talked about this starting on like a Wednesday or a Tuesday, late at night. Oh, coach needs to know by Friday. I'm like, this is the next year of my life, my family, my relationship, and my business. She plays a massive part in the business. So, like, what the fuck am I going to do? And this time constraint. And so we kind of worked through. This is a massive up and down. I went into like a tailspin, like got the tingles, feel the vision closing in kind of thing. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. And I'll just say for, your boys, me, Turts, and Greg, like, we're trying to figure out, because we're hearing, Lauren's talking to Peyton, my wife, right? No, and we're just like, we're everybody wants to do what they can, but also it's like, it's for you, it's your family decision.
Yeah. I think the biggest part for me, honestly, and like, we'll get back to the Lauren and I piece, but for me, it's one of the first times that I came to you guys and was like, listen, here's the situation. And I just remember saying, I'm really fucked up about this. I don't know what to do. I don't know where my emotions are at. I don't know if I'm being like crazy. Am I being selfish? And then I remember Turtz, I think it was Turtz, asked like, okay, what do you need from us? I'm like, none of my friends have ever, like, that was a huge thing. And I'm like, this is classic. This is usually how Lauren and I would operate. But I was like, I think I just need you guys to listen. I need to just,
yeah, you said that, and we were just like, holy shit, that's
I just need
fucking
to talk,
powerful.
talk through it. Everyone listened, which is, if you know us, especially coming from the background, like the banter that we usually have is off the charts. So to quiet everything,
Shut your yap. Yep.
shut everyone's mouth and just listen was like nuts. And that's where I got it out. And it basically, I talked through it with you guys, and it was like, I think I just need, and I had a couple other people I talked to. And it was like, I think I just need her to listen to me and just understand how fucked up this is for me. And then we can go through it. And so her and I went back to talking, and like that eventually in a short period of time came out. Like, I think I just need you to know that this is fucking hard for me. Like, I don't know what to do. It's not as easy as you think. And then as soon as I said that, she was basically like, you know what? This isn't my life. I don't have to go do this. I just need you to know, or I just need to know that it's okay with you if I do really want to do it and you're supportive. And then we were both, the light bulbs going, like, we've just been totally missing each other. And from there, right, it was like, we just wasted like 4 days deep in fear and deep in tension. And as soon as that happened, we're like, well, let's flip this. Like, this could be an incredible experience on the good side.
Totally.
Like, I can grow when you're like, when you're gone, I can grow as a person and do things that I need to do for myself. I can try and run the business by myself, which is actually, it could be good for everyone. It could be good for the business. We can move faster because Lauren and I tend to talk over things a lot. But like, it was for you, like for her to be away. And the thing for me, we talked about this on the phone, I think the night that we talked about it.
Yep.
I listened to, I forget what the podcast was. Might have been Michael Gervais, but talking about like if I truly love Lauren as a person, not as a wife, but as a person, like how can I prevent her? Because I know her. Hopefully, I think I know her as well as anybody. Yeah. But like her essence and like her soul, like as a like when we talk about someone truly glowing, her in that role. As a softball player, as a leader, and kind of as an example, and not like a leader like in your face, that person, but just living their true, like, and I don't love the term like living your truth. Yeah,
it can be a little corny, and it's but
it's in the clouds
that's
a little
what
bit.
it is.
That's literally like what it like. Literally to see someone go, I'm like, how can like I can't get in the way of this. Like it's just not right. Like if I do love her, like I can't. It just that was it. That was for me. That was like. When that realization hit, I'm like, all right, she has to go play. And not only go play, we have to support the shit out of her.
Yeah, you did that.
And she has to, like, I want her to love the experience in her life doing it. And so for me, like, now I'm excited. When I say I was like bumming, I was like sitting on the curb outside the gym, like talking to you guys, like crying basically. Like, because that's how, honestly, like that's how I feel about my relationship with her. Like it was something that's like the most important thing to me that I saw was like, oh shit, this is on the ropes. Like, and it was so like looking back, it's like, okay, I went to that dark place. I'm not sure why.
It's just fear. I think fear drives us there, right?
For sure. Yeah. And maybe it's like the more you have, the more you have to lose kind of thing. Sure. But God, it was tough. But looking back, I'm like, we've talked about it since Greg and Turtle and you and I, like that was like a big thing as me, as a man, like an adult man, to have that, like to express myself like that, have people let me do it and basically just give me a hug about it. And then it got solved. Don't forget, you talked about it earlier. I don't want you to forget the final piece of that is going to your wife in saying, I just need you to know that this is hard, because that shit is what guys don't do. We don't do that. We don't admit when shit's hard. And it was fucking hard, dude. Like you were broken up.
like I'm getting emotional just remembering like that experience. Like it's hard for men to show that vulnerability, and you did that. Like when you're supposed to be the rock, right? You're not supposed to do that shit, and you did it. You went there. And that was like for us as your brothers to witness that, it was like, holy shit. Like it started off shitty, like for you. We're just like, how's this going to end? Or not end, but like, how is this going to resolve itself? Because it didn't feel good in the beginning and we didn't know what to do. We just sat, right? But what you did is you created space for that pain to come out, for you to acknowledge it, for you to put words to it, to share it, and then to just turn it and see the fear for what it was and to just go through it with love. I mean, I don't want to gloss over the fact that you admitted it was really fucking hard. And that is just, again, something that we've all grown up, like we're not supposed to do that shit. And you did it. And look at where you guys are today. Like if you hadn't done that, if you'd have bottled it up and said, yeah, honey, go ahead, do it. You'd be that energy, you feel it. And it's your relationship suffers dramatically because of that. But because you were honest, and like I said, vulnerable, fuck, dude. Like it's so powerful. And it's like, I don't want that to be missed today. Like of all the shit we talk about, like as a man and this being pretty much a men's podcast, like I want men out there to know that if you actually have some balls and you want to show some courage, do what you did in a situation where it would have been easy to just bite your tongue and try to be a quote unquote man about it. And so I fucking love you for that. You're a great example to all of us. So thank you.
I'm glad.
Anyway,
honestly, like I'm glad. I like sharing it. I guess it's one of those things. It's evolved for me. I actually, and we've talked directly a lot, Lauren and I, with people that we work with about being vulnerable, and that definitely helps. Like digging in there, but it's become a place that I'm comfortable in. It helps me, right? Like I would, if I wasn't, you said it perfectly, I wouldn't have had the support. Like, how do you find out where your support is? Where do you find out who's going to help you, that you are like, I felt love from that, right? Like if I didn't open up about it, no one would have shown me the love back. So I wouldn't have got, like, in a selfish way, like it helps. Like I grew because of that.
And I love, you know what? I also just kind of put together like it's, okay, so arguably it's hardest to go to your wife, your loved one with that like message, right? And you almost like threw it out to your trusted tribe. And not that you couldn't go to her and say it, right? But you came to us and said, I just need you to listen. This is going to be hard. Like I'm fucked up about this. And it's like feeling that love and understanding and having your brothers just hold that space for you and not say, dude, you're being a pussy. Like, come on, nut up. Like you can do this. Like, come on. No, it's like, yeah, dude, that's fucking hard. Like, holy shit. Like we don't have to deal with that.
Super glossed over in this whole story is the role that you guys play, right? Like it's all about me being vulnerable.
No, but it's also like for the men out there, like, if you have something that is really hard and it's going to be vulnerable to express to your wife or your girlfriend or whoever, right? Like try it out on that group, that person who has your fucking ride or die, who has you no matter what. And they'll tell you if you're fucking crazy, you know, but if they're with you, they'll feel what you're experiencing and they'll let you feel that. And I think you did gain some strength from that. And so that's awesome. Like you just intuitively knew, like, I'm not ready to go to Lauren. I need to just know that I'm not crazy here.
That was exactly it. I needed to know, that was kind of the gist of it. Like, am I looking at this the right way? I don't need you to tell me how to look at it, but just give me some, be the guardrails.
Yeah. Feedback.
Right. God, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was a crazy week.
But it's if you're watching on the stream, Lauren's just off camera here. That's why Dave keeps looking over there. But it's again, thank you for sharing that. in all of its depths and vulnerability. I think it's super important, of all the things we're going to talk about today. Like I want people to leave with that one and what it, in my opinion, what it means to be a real man. So thank you for that. Now, one thing that we were again talking about before we got on that, if you are watching the stream, I have a t-shirt on today. It's our friend Greg that we were talking about earlier. And, his nickname when we were working out at Windy City CrossFit was Ocho, short for Ocho Cinco. He was the guy that would go 85% no matter what. Now, we were the guys who were drinking the Kool-Aid, all of it, and we would go 100% because that's what everybody else was doing, so that's what we were doing. Now, the reason I bring this up is because my life has shifted in a way that I'm really trying to live the kind of that Ocho life now where, and we talked about it before, like if you have 10 categories in your life, let's just say whatever they are, right? You have 10. If you're focused, I only speak from experience. For me, if I was focused on one of them, let's say nutrition, how I was eating, and maybe fitness, two of these things, I'm really trying to go from 90 to 93% or whatever the percentage is, right? I'm really trying to push the needle to perfect it, to get as much of my potential as I can. What has happened for me in those other 8 categories is I'm clocking in at 60, at 50, at 30, at 55. And all of a sudden, these two things are dominating and really kind of casting a cloud over the rest of who I am. And for me, what happened was I got so hyper focused on that I started to almost like pull away from the family, like unconsciously. I didn't know I was doing it, but I was so focused on me and those goals and trying to do something where no one else gave a shit about, right? And certainly my wife, Peyton, probably was growing very resentful. I know there were a lot of remarks that just went in one ear and out the other, but it was her way, passive aggressively, right? Good Southern girl, of telling me to fucking pump my brakes. Now, she doesn't do that anymore. She just tells me straight out, like, dude, chill out. It's a cupcake. You're okay, right? Fortunately, I don't have a lot of those things anymore where I'm trying to push the needle again. And so I'm curious what your experience has been like. Fitness for one, right? What does fitness look like for Dave from Windy City days, right? Where you were not just the best male there, but by far and away the best. Like if you got beat in any workout, it was maybe randomly once every couple of weeks. Like it was basically Dave, and it was like when Tiger was at the, I'm gonna butter your nuts a little bit here, but it's when Tiger was at the top of his game. He was gonna win everything, and everybody else was playing for second. This is kind of what we were doing. We were like the dipshits that were trying to, get to the podium.
So overarching here, I feel like Kenny Powers is gonna walk in and give me the not trying to be the best at exercising. Like it's so funny to look back at it.
So
like
yeah,
that.
so okay, perfect, exactly. We were silly back then, but our heart was in the right place, right? We didn't articulate it the best ways always, but again, I think we were doing the best we could. We thought this was the best thing for us to do,
yes.
And we obviously tried to share that with as many people as we could, jamming that methodology down their throat. Now,
we were douches.
How has that changed for you with fitness and with other things? Like where were you in like, how do you live your life today?
I think, to be fair, I think it's a progression, right? It's just growth from where we came from. But I think the big thing for us in kids and family and just getting a little bit older changes the perspective here. I think so for Lauren and I, like we always talk about with our clients and people at the gym, like fitness, for me, it used to just be exercise, just physical fitness, right? Yep. And then like as we grew a little bit, we brought nutrition into it, maybe some lifestyle stuff. But as we get older, we see that to really break it down for us, fitness is physical, of course. It's mental fitness that no one addresses these things. Emotional fitness. So the way we look at it, like in the gym, it's a much broader piece. It goes back to those 10 parts of your life, right? Like another good way to look at it. We think of it, you have to visualize this a little bit, but if you have a triangle, right? And inside the triangle is your total fitness, your total health, right? Each tip of the triangle, one of them's physical, one of them's mental, and one of them's emotional. Well, my triangle was really narrow on the mental and the emotional. I stretched that physical piece really far. It doesn't add that much volume or area to my overall health. You need to expand each piece of the triangle to grow the whole thing, right? You're creating total health that way. Spiking, if you have 10 categories, spiking your physical fitness from 90 to 95. Then I was proud because I was super fit.
Yeah.
Well, now I realize, my emotional fitness was lagging. Like my relationship now with my wife and my friends, like it's 10x of what it was then, right?
I'm going to pause there for a second because it may seem obvious, like that we want to improve and always continue to grow with our partner, right? Our wife. So you say my relationship with my wife and my friends, like that's the part that I think is also bypassed for a lot of, and I'll just speak for men in general. We don't seek out a tribe, a group, and really try to take that experience and take it to the next level. And I think that's what we've experienced. And really it's been in the last year and a half or so, we've been on a few guys trips, right? That have changed. It's not beer drinking, playing golf, staying up late, eating like shit, and then getting on the plane and coming home. Now we're going to a place with nice weather. We're getting sunshine. We're hanging out. We're connecting. We're sharing stuff. We're actually healing some things that needed to be healed from the past. We're getting things out in the open so that we can grow as a group and we can show one another that we are there in a profound way, right? And so, again, I got us a little off there, but I think it's important for people to know that it's not just improving a relationship with your partner or your kids. I mean, that's paramount.
How about this one? Improving your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, it starts there.
That's the one. We talked a little bit again yesterday about, so in the big picture, like that fog of, I think when guys especially have kids and move into that thing, right? It's the narrative. The wife is the ball and chain. The kids, you show up at the games, you complain about sports, which have fallen into myself.
Yeah, we all have for sure.
But like, it doesn't have to be like that, right? Like when you talk about us going on these trips and investing in the growth piece, like I'm excited to go now because I'm going to learn something new. We're going to talk about a different angle of something. We're going to expose like emotions. People, it sounds crazy. Someone's probably going to get upset and cry about something. People, don't get me wrong. We still dick around and make fun of each other.
Oh, fart jokes, all that stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Come on, people. Come on. Just don't get this twisted. Okay.
No, but like, it's not the routine. It's not the routine of every time we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have the same drink. We're going to have the same conversation and never really dig in. It became, for me, I look at it a little bit like, and someone said this perfectly, like, and I talked to Turtle about this. What do you want your life to be? The default answer is happy. What do you want to be? Happy. Do you? Like, is that all you want? Do you never want to feel the other stuff? Do you never want to be challenged? Do you never want to challenge anybody? Do you never want to go to a dark, like, how do you know what things feel like? My grandmother passed away. You don't want to be happy. You just won the game. You're not happy. You're joyful. Your emotions are they're all over the place.
You need the contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing I think people could benefit from, and me getting even more of it too, I'm just like everyone else, right? I have a few extra tricks and tools and I've dived into some of these things more, but challenge the status quo. Go to different places with your emotions and your friends. And like, they don't, like, I'm a little bit off topic, but men don't have those groups. They have the golf course, or this is the other one, like the career becomes everything. The status of the career becomes everything. You can cover up with work a lot.
Yep.
And unfortunately, like you can cover up a lot with the car you drive, or the work trips, right? And things get missed. And then all of a sudden it's 20 years later, snooze is still going off. It doesn't mean that you can't have those things and still be incredibly fulfilled and on top of your game and have an unbelievable marriage, right?
Yeah. But I think what you're talking about, it becomes, or again, for me, it became just a lot of unconscious behavior. The trips were just the trips without really any purpose. Okay. Yeah. I was going to hang out with my buddies. I mean, and I don't want to downplay that, but like when it's just about the golf and the booze and the eating whatever, like it just becomes.
You're a great example of this, by the way, because you had the most epic trips.
I had a great run.
Yeah. I think if anybody doesn't believe it, go to your Instagram from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I like
unbelievable.
One
time,
of my best friends, JJ, made so much of that happen. He's a brother to me. I'm not saying that doing these trips they're not fun or whatever, but what is like my invitation, right, to those listening, bring a little more intention to it. Challenge your buddies. See who's there for you. See if like when you break down and you share something, right, like something that you're struggling with, see who's there. See who can handle it, And if you step up, I think people will be surprised at who has been dying to do that for them.
Yes.
For anyone.
The dam breaks, right? One person lets it go and then everyone, oh man, I've been feeling like X, Y, and Z. I've had trouble with this, that kind of thing. Like it definitely, you need one to get it going. And once it's out there, like once it got out there for us, it's easy to keep it out there. You still need to work on it, but like when you lift the veil and get to the real, it stays real.
Like where we have this excitement about spending time together now because we know in some way we're all going to walk away impacted. And we know that the connections that we've had over the years are just continuing to go deeper and deeper. And so it's not just a one-off trip here or there. It's really something that we all make time for. We have to make it happen because we all grow from it, And so I'm fucking stoked that our group of brothers from Chicago, when we started in Chicago, has developed into this, It's been an incredible kind of transformation really and growth of this tribe of ours. And there's plenty of room for other people to come on board, It's not one of those like there's no tribalism here. Like we're here, we're brothers, and we welcome all comers.
There's a short application process for anybody that's
an application fee.
It's crazy to think. I mean, it's been years and years and years, but it's wild to see the progress in the journey and.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we started all doing CrossFit together, like we all took our relationship to another level and that was amazing. We're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And now we're like notches above that, right? And it's like, what's around the corner for us? I think as we go from some unconscious behavior to more conscious, living, then I think these things, we've just been seeking them out, right? You and Lauren coming down here for 2 nights, just like that, boom. It's like, I don't think we would have done this before. Like we wouldn't have thought to do it, but we know that if we can just steal away a couple of days together, it's awesome. And we walk away enriched from it. And so I'm grateful that y'all made it happen. So thank you.
Thank you for having us, man.
Yeah, buddy. Okay. I had a couple other things that I wanted to touch on before we wrap up. One, so part of your morning routine is you walk every morning, whether it's outside or on the treadmill, you do your 5-minute journal and you have coffee. Now, my question to you is, I did the 5-minute journal for actually on your recommendation for quite a while. And for me, I went from that, from being present with the experience and what was going on to it became part of my routine. And I kind of lost the oomph for it, right?
Just becomes a box to check off.
And that's what it was for me.
Yeah,
and so I haven't done it in probably a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so, like, do you ever skip days? Like, how do you not? Because you've been doing it, and Lauren have been doing it for seeming like forever. And so, how do you keep it engaged, or do you not? Like, how would you assess where that sits for you?
I totally know the feeling there because I dug into it, liked it, and then got away from it for a bit, and then got back into it. And the thing that kept me, like right now, it's like crucial to me. The days that for whatever reason, something goes haywire in the morning, the kids in the bed sick at night, all those parent things, every once in a while I'll skip and I notice it. And it's because I made a subtle kind of shift in the way I do it. And for those that don't know the 5-minute journal, there's a nighttime piece where you review your day. You write down 3 amazing things that happen. And you can do this without the 5-minute journal, obviously, right? If you have a blank journal you want to use. So I write down the thing that happened. And then in parentheses, I'll write down the emotion that I felt when that happened. So, for example, I'll say things that were amazing. I'll say I recorded an incredible podcast with Cal. And then in parentheses, I would put connected. And for me, connection is like, it's one of our core values at Track. Like that could be the most important thing in my estimation, is connecting with other people on a deep level, not, the high five, but true connection. And so that's what I would write. And I would I'll sit tonight for, 5-10 seconds and reimagine or bring that emotion back to myself and make it feel real. And there's starting to be science behind this.
That's so different. It's like, it's a layer deeper, but it's like a much deeper layer.
Yeah. I think they call it emotionalizing thing. So I'll do that for 3 different things. And for me, that makes the whole experience with the journal deeper and more real. It's not just scribbling things, in the journal. And I journaled before the 5-minute journal. And that's actually what got me out of the bathrobe phase when we moved. Just getting my thoughts down on paper and talking about what was going on in my head. Obviously suggests that for everybody. But the appreciation piece is huge. The 5-minute journal for me is like, I did on the plane. I'll do it wherever. I don't miss really many days ever.
Yeah. It's that I get it now. And I'm glad I asked you about that, because I've seen you do it and I'm just like, yeah, I've been there. I didn't go as long as you, but it makes sense to me now. That emotional, when you connect emotionally, that imprint,
yes,
it is lasting.
Yeah, you start to hardwire positive emotion in your brain. And when you start to physically translates to feelings, how you feel physically better, then you can't miss it.
Yep. Okay. So, one thing that you and Lauren did this summer, we had our 4 couples got together, and you and Lauren came with a card for each of the 6 of us. So you wrote a card for the 6 of us, and Lauren wrote a card. There were a lot of tears from both the men and the women, and it had a very big impact on all of us. I carry mine around in my fanny pack to this day, just as a reminder. And so I'm interested, because I don't think we ever talked about it. Like, what was the inspiration for that? And what did it feel like for you to share those thoughts?
I like those cards. That was, so I don't know, honestly, I think my personal journey, another kind of in the clouds term that I don't love, but as I've kind of grown up with some of this stuff, I've been lucky to have different influences around. And for me, one of them is my brother, Mike, the most interesting man in the world, the most thoughtful person. He's the guy who would write cards for me. And I think that's something I picked up from him. And not just how good it feels to get one. I obviously picture that for you. Like I want to deeply convey how I feel
Yeah.
about you guys, right? For that trip, we literally were just walking through the airport thinking about how much fun it was going to be to see everyone. We're like, what can we do to start this trip off? And not, because back to the original point, we don't want it to just be a vacation getting together. Like, we can do that forever. We can just sit in a room and have cocktails and laugh, which is fantastic. But I would encourage anyone to do this. If you're going with friends or even with your wife, it wasn't necessarily a ceremony, but we did it at the beginning when everyone was first together. Wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, knowing that this was really a special time to be with each other. You don't get those moments very often. And so we just wanted to make sure you guys knew how special it was for us. And it felt like, not gonna lie, it felt amazing to write the cards. Obviously I'm really glad everyone enjoyed them.
And they're amazing. But and I think what you both were able to do in that, right? It was to like stop time and say, hey, listen, this is special. Let's not take it for granted. Let's be present in what's unfolding here. Because at the end of the weekend, we're all going our separate ways. And so let's really cherish these moments together. And we did, and it was amazing. And so that was, amazing. So I just want to make sure I shared that as, as a thank you, but also for people listening, like gestures like that, like it just raises the level of your relationships and the deep love that we all have for one another. It just, again, it was
I think so many times the people closest to you get the shaft, right?
Yep.
Like you forget, like we'll write people cards that we love around the gym and people that aren't the very closest. To me, like Lauren and I actually write a decent amount of cards back and forth. So letting the people that are your boys, like how often, when's the last time? I think it's interesting to me that we tell each other that we love each other. It's awesome, but no, I don't, it's when people find that out, they're like, what?
Yeah.
What do you, like, it doesn't compute. And I would encourage anybody to like lay it out there, be vulnerable. It's only going to raise the level of fulfillment from any relationship, whether it's your best friends, your wife, whoever. It's crazy.
Yeah. And there's a difference, between saying, I love you, man, to like looking your boy in the face, in the eyes and saying, I love you. Like there's a different cadence to that. There's a different energy. And in the beginning, folks, it's going to feel a little awkward, right? Because all that shitty programming that we've had growing up. But like when you finally release yourself of that and you can look someone in the eye, a brother, another woman who, is a friend and say, I love you. It's pretty amazing. It just creates a connection that is different than, oh, I love you guys. Like there's nuance there, but it's significant.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I can only think right now, people listening, I know people will go cross-eyed hearing that. Like it just doesn't, it's so backwards as to how a lot of people are raised, guys specifically, right? Like
totally.
It's always just the man hug, half-ass, right?
And for me, like my greatest teacher in this has been Kyle Kingsbury. Kyle's the one who gives the best hugs. He holds in there. You feel his essence. He's a monster. Anyways, he swallows you up. It's like his like high school girlfriend with his leather jacket on. But but he looks at me and he says, I love you. And he means it. And he kisses me on the cheek. And it's like he doesn't care about any of that stuff. And it's like, it's been a great teacher for me to step outside of those societal constraints around that bullshit. And so I think a big thanks to Kyle for leading the way in that and letting me let go of it. So,
yeah, it's contagious. I mean, I think that got passed from him to you to us around.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's to the point earlier, like if you step into that space, like that's true love. And a lot of men don't feel the true love with their brothers. And so like that helps raise the consciousness of that group and that love. And so I would challenge challenge all the men out there to give that a shot. So anyway, in wrapping up, the big final question, I always like to ask my guests, because the name of the podcast, tentatively, I believe it's going to be Working In with Cal. So I like to ask my guests, what is it you're doing today in the with the intention of working in? How are you creating balance in your life? What are the things that you're doing to create more presence in your life? Because I think a lot of us can tend to focus on the output of energy, whether it's work, fitness, whatever. We don't take a lot of time, unfortunately, especially with this hectic world, of recovering and restoring and bringing the energy back in and filling up that battery. And so what is something or some things that you're doing right now that's really creating that recovery, rejuvenation, and that space for you?
For me, we talked about this a little bit. Meditation has been huge. The thing that I thought was like the corniest, I'm never going to do that. I've really dug into it in the last year and enjoyed it. It's totally changed the way I operate.
What does that look like for you, meditation?
So
it
for
means
me,
different things to everybody.
For sure. And Michael Gervais said this because when he worked with the Seahawks. If you're worried about how that term comes across, use mindfulness. It's the same, right? Just couch it a little bit differently, especially guys like, oh, that sounds better. I'll try that.
Yeah.
But I'll go with meditation because that's how I roll.
Yeah.
I go guided. I use one of the apps, Headspace or Waking Up, some of these. It's kind of translated into not having to use the guided. I'll just sit in quiet and try and clear my head in terms of focus on my breathing, focus on some visual things maybe, and pass. A thought comes into my head, I try and pass it out. And it's literally, for me personally, it's the perfect reset, whether it's first thing in the morning to clear my head and go into the day, or from transitioning from work to family. Like to shut it down, it shuts the door on the work and opens it up to the family, or shuts down my workout and opens me up to work, whatever it may be. That's huge. And another thing I'm really working on, I'm trying to be a better listener. I think a lot of people are probably trying to do the same thing, but it's funny. Lauren and I went through last night, just for example, we talked about the whole, and getting back to when she decided to play. We just were missing each other, right? I wasn't listening. I needed to express myself. I wasn't listening. And she needed to express herself, but she wasn't really listening. And it's so funny. Last night we got our wires crossed a little bit on just some fears around the new kind of transition business-wise and coaching and some of these things. And I was so happy. I actually listened a little bit. I didn't get scared. I didn't get too tense. And then we just made the connection. We're like, it's just like the Olympic thing. She's like, I just need you to hear me. And I'm like, oh. And then I listened. I'm like, well, I just need you to hear me. And then she listened to me and we're like, oh, it's not as extreme as we think it is. We're not really missing each other by that much. It's okay. Like that piece for me, huge.
That's huge. And that's interesting because that's not something I would list initially under like a working in, but like that's as important as anything, that like, especially for the health of your relationship. And I know that when Peyton and I, we've had, recently had a few moments that really healed some past stuff for us. It 100% was because the other party was willing to receive it with an open heart and just listen. And there was no ego involved. It wasn't like trying to be defensive. And so I think that's a great thing for people to take away from here, right? Like the meditation, but also like listen, and Kyle likes to say famously that Paul Chek says we have one mouth and two ears for a reason. And we need to listen twice as much as we speak.
It's true.
And
Yeah.
really, it's
Yeah, if you don't prep your response, you're not concerned about the response. You're literally just catch what's coming at you
yeah,
and don't worry about how you're going to throw it back.
yeah,
That person feels like supported just by the act of catching it. You don't need, and that's how it is with Lauren and I all the time. It's just listen,
yeah.
right? Easier
Yeah.
said than done.
It is for sure. So thanks, brother.
Yes,
I love
man.
you. Thanks
Love you
for
too.
coming. And I'm excited to send this out.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you.
All right, brother.